today. Yeah.
Jesus.
All right. Click. And we're live. It is Saturday, December 19th, 2020, 5:02 p.m. And I've had a little bit of a weird day. So today I came home from a long walk with the Lisa Page puppet. And I found on my porch a
No.
package from Room Raider,
Oh, nice. Okay.
which contained this here pineapple, which you'll notice is made of wood, hardwood at that. And it was rather difficult to embed the battle axe in it, but I did it. Um, and and first of all, I have said a lot of mean things about Room Raider over the months. I hope I've done it pleasantly, but that was a super nice thing for Room Raider to do, to get me a pineapple. And so now we have Bob Mueller embedding the battle axe in the pineapple with one hefty stroke. We have the baby cannon photographs. We have an oil lamp that is actually burning, and the reflections of that in the window. We have tiny baby cannon and handmade, I don't know what to call that larger cannon that is kind of too big. It's like
Toddler
a
cannon.
toddler cannon, sort of like tween cannon. I have fired that cannon, by the way. It's very impressive when it fires. And so now all that we are lacking for the final background as voted by the wonderful In Lieu of Fun audience is the creeping vine that is eventually going to creep up from the floor where it now is and grab, the brick and go wherever it goes. So that will happen over the coming weeks and months. Room Raider, I want to extend a warm thank you for an awesome pineapple. And it's not usually the first thing that I do when people send me gifts is not a whoa. And Bob Mueller has
No.
fallen
No.
out of the frame.
No.
Yes, I did set that up.
Wait, did you really?
I did.
Oh.
I'm,
You totally had me.
I think Bob Mueller falling off the wall is going to be like part of my
New shtick.
the new shtick.
I love that.
Noticed, however, that the battle axe remains staunchly in place without the hand of Bob Mueller,
I'm
which
very
brings
happy that the battle axe can stay in place without Bob Mueller because Bob Mueller doesn't look that
that
substantial.
strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
So this brings me to crowdsource the truth, which I don't really want to talk about, except that a lot of people in the audience have been following this over the last hour. And all I will say about crowdsource the truth is this is a gentleman who has been accusing me of covering up a murder for Matt Tate and Shane Harris for the last, I don't know, it feels like a couple years. Um, uh, Anybody who is
crazy.
interested in the subject should get a life and be interested in something interesting. But he's spent enough time in my Twitter responses, and I don't love seeing my name in connection with the word murder. So I today invited him to uh, ask me anything on a Twitter feed, which is restricted to the two of us. Anybody who's interested, I put it up there mostly for the benefit, just so that if it's useful to have a public record of this sort of thing. Yeah,
This is
there are
2 hours and 18 minutes long. This documentary that this
yes that
person
he
made.
that he really wants me to watch. That if I watch this, I will be convinced that Peter Smith did not, in fact, kill himself, but that Shane Harris,
What the?
and Matt Tate got together, and I don't know what he actually thinks happens, but he thinks that Shane and Matt did something terrible, and I've been covering for them. I can't figure it out. I've never tried because it's Looney Tunes.
Crazy.
Yeah, and now he's upset at me because I will only answer his questions on Twitter and not in a live interview setting. I am not going to comment on it beyond that, other than to say whatever anybody wants to say here. If you're interested in it, the value of this thing was that it's all in public, so you can make your own determinations. We're not allowed to have fun anymore. We are allowed to have creepy
this guy is. He's
stalker
going
types
nuts.
who believe that we covered up the murder of a guy who was trying to find Hillary Clinton's emails by buying them from Russian hackers, and got Matt Tate to try to work on it, and then killed himself in a hotel room because he was dying of some other disease anyway by inhaling helium. That seems to be what he did, but we're allowed to think that he was actually murdered by Matt Tate and Shane Harris and buried in a, I don't know, what he thinks. But I don't believe that Shane Harris and Matt Tate had anything to do with the death of Peter Smith, other than the fact that Matt Tate did have some interactions with him about Hillary Clinton's emails, and Shane reported on the whole thing for the Wall Street Journal once upon a time.
Wow.
So that is all I have to say on that subject. Kate, how was your day?
I went to the post office. My day was very mundane compared to yours. I went to the post office. It was closed. I had 30 small boxes full of cookies that I had lovingly packaged, and I schlepped them all into the post office like a Christmas cartoon or something. And then the little like thing was down, and I couldn't send any of them, so I just schlepped them all back out, and I'll send them on Monday. Yeah, that's about it. Then I took a nap on my couch because Netflix wasn't working. I
wish I had gotten a nap today.
I know. I was like, I almost never take naps, and this was kind of lovely. I don't know. It's like continues to be very cold here, like below freezing, and snowing on and off, and nothing like huge, but just flurries. I don't know. It's just kind of cozy and wintry, and we're going into like the darkest time of the year, and I'm kind of very much reminded how much more I notice that when I don't live in a city that's full of lights. It's kind of shocking. Yeah. So I
just realized something.
What?
I can't see the chat. Why can't I see the chat?
I don't know.
I can see you, and but I can't. I can see you. I can see me, and
Can you see the thing that says view chat?
I can't see the thing that says view chat. I can't see the Q&A. I can't see the poll.
Well, so maybe you need to refresh.
I'm going to expel myself for a moment while you respond to this comment, and I'm going to bring myself back in, and maybe I will be able to see things.
Yeah. So while I'm here without Ben, which is always gives me agita, I was going to say that I hope someone can explain. Did it fix it?
No.
Oh.
It did not.
Oh, everyone say mean things about Ben today.
Yeah, this is your chance, guys, because I can't see anything, which is going to make it hard for me to bring in... Whoops. I can't see anything, which is going to make it super hard to bring in people.
That's weird.
Let me see if I can fix this.
In the meantime, I was going to say someone commented in the thing that you had a significantly weirder day than me, which I have to say is not usually how it goes. Like, we both can have weird days, but I think that weirder stuff usually like befalls me. But you've had like the pineapple, the Lisa Page puppet, and being accused of murder on
there's
the
nothing
internet
weird
platform.
About going for a walk with Lisa Page.
Yeah,
that was quite nice, actually.
Yes, I bet that was actually really lovely.
The pineapple thing is quite lovely too.
Yeah.
The
it's just kind of yeah, the
The
internet
being
strangers.
like having a conversation with somebody who thinks I can
Did you fix
things
it?
sort of. Um,
I have a question. How many people have you like?
have I
How
murdered?
no?
How many
Well,
murders have I covered up? So many. I'm so good at it that like, you know, like people.
uh,
One of the great things about murder cover-ups is if you do it really well, like they rack up and people still think you're at zero because of the nature of cover-ups.
that is the nature of cover-ups.
Because you
But the
don't like
idea of
put
a
a
cover
notch in your belt for a murder cover-up, because then somebody will like
that's the
steal your
whole
belt
yeah,
and be like,
that's true.
this is their murder cover-up belt. um,
Yes, I was actually thinking that like uh one of my greatest fears of all time is murdering someone. Is that a strange thing to say?
I'm a little more fear of being murdered, actually. But that's because
Really?
you're a good person,
Oh,
and I'm a bad person.
oh, I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think that's, but like I really have a recurring dream I've had since I was little that I've like killed someone and I feel awful about it and it was like self-defense or something, but like I can't undo it and I feel terrible. But anyways, happier topics. I was going to tell you that a lot of my friends are getting vaccinated. Most of them who are doctors and healthcare workers, and so that's kind of crazy to see. I don't know. I would say like a solid like dozen or 2 dozen of people. Like I don't know. What about you? Have you been seeing
Um,
people get vaccinated?
I have not. And I was on the chat for a second. Um,
Oh, I
uh,
saw you. Yeah.
yeah, I was there. I have now fixed it. How lethal is baby cannon? Elizabeth Derrico wants to know, and the answer is it depends how big you are. Um, if you are a murder hornet or a baby chipmunk, it is super lethal. If you are a human being, I have actually been shot with baby cannon once. Um,
Really?
yeah, I wouldn't
Accident?
advise it. Yeah,
Yeah.
a backfire, or a ricochet. It bruised pretty bad. Yeah. It was not.
Sounds unpleasant.
I wouldn't want to be hit with it at close range. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Um. Um. Anyway. No, it was not intentionally Oblio 23. Um. Okay. Should we plan the show?
Sure.
I have an awesome mystery guest for tomorrow who
I'll
has
be the judge of
agreed
that.
to come on, and none of you are going to guess who it is. So Sunday is taken care of. Monday is also taken care of because the great
Oh yeah.
Kaylee Swift, who
I'm so excited.
is the
Corvid researcher.
Corvid researcher and the
I'm putting in that in the
discoverer
calendar.
of crow necrophilia,
Oh yeah. Wow.
is
This is like a nice murdery discussion today.
yes. Well, yes. To crowdsource the truth, if crows had killed Peter Smith, they would have fucked him too.
Yeah. Good one, Ben.
Yeah, just saying, guys. Taylor Swift is coming on the show this week, but is not the mystery guest tomorrow. Um,
Wait, what are we doing for Christmas?
I don't know. That should be up to you. You're the goy here.
Oh yeah. Uh, I don't know what that means, but I'll take it as a compliment. And
Well, it means you're the one who celebrates Christmas.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I don't really celebrate Christmas, and we're not celebrating with anyone at all. So it's just me and John and a dog. Um, what about you? Do you have any weird Christmas traditions? I feel like don't
None.
like
I have
Jewish people go and get Chinese food and go to the movie theater usually or something?
Yeah. So of course, Chinese food is a Jewish tradition, at least a non-Orthodox Jewish tradition. And movies I used to be part of the Jewish bowling on Christmas tradition, but now most of the
Ooh,
bowling alleys are closed on Christmas, which is terrible. Um, and I'm actually very sad about that. Uh, it used to be like a thing.
that sounds really fun. Do you
Yeah,
go like, do you do it totally? Uh, do you do it like, do you have like, do it kind of Big Lebowski style?
so back when bowl like so I think now um a huge number of like most Chinese Americans will do celebrate Christmas, whereas a generation ago, a lot of Chinese Americans didn't. So if you went to a movie theater or a bowling alley, it was like all Chinese and Jewish. Um,
Wait, dude. Oh, okay.
um,
Okay.
and sort of like a lot of, um, and that was like a big um, like I think it may be like the Jews eating Chinese food on Christmas comes from it just being the only places that were
They
open.
were open. That's what I
Um,
always thought.
yeah, and so there is this like Jewish East Asian. It's not just Chinese. It's a Jewish East Asian from non-Christian countries, like looking for things to do on Christmas Day thing that is real. It's less true than it used to be because now I think most East Asians in the United States celebrate Christmas to one degree or another. And the sort of secular side of Christmas has really caught on in Asian communities, which it doesn't in at least marginally traditional Jewish communities for religious reasons. And so there's a like the Jews are getting a little bit left behind on this one. Um,
Well, yeah. Um, I don't know. It's always been a pretty secular holiday for me. Um, it's not really that big a deal. It just kind of, I do feel very acutely, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but I feel like the winter gets darker after like Christmas. I don't mean like actually darker. Like I just like I just kind of feel like I kind of understand why a lot of religions have something in the middle of the winter solstice to kind of like move things forward. I don't know, like even though it's the very beginning or like the tipping point of the solstice, like I kind of like feel like really crushed by January and February.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the um, like there really aren't communities. I mean, the number of communities that have some kind of light-based festival in the depths of winter um, is just immense. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we did this really cool thing a couple of years ago that I would highly recommend. It was, I think Norwegian Air was doing like I don't know, it was like $39 each way to Norway out of like Stewart Airport. And we got a couple friends together and went for 3 days to Norway for New Year's. And like, because it's so dark in Scandinavia during the winter, just like everything was lit up there. It was actually a really kind of cool time to go because everything was lit up. The other thing that was incredible is like the number of places that had lit things with actual candles. Like things were actually on fire. Like every restaurant had like dozens of like stemmed candles. I just like hadn't seen that in a long time. And it was just kind of, I don't know, like I there it was, but yeah, it was beautiful. It was really fun. I don't know. Um,
I think
sorry,
we should
I've never been
revive
to
the Feast
Finland.
of Sol Invictus.
A feast of what?
Sol Invictus.
Oh,
Old
what?
Roman holiday around the same period. I believe uh, those with better Latin will correct me on this, but I believe it means the Feast of the Unconquered Sun. But the Romans actually believed that Sol Invictus was a god of some sort.
Oh,
And so there was a lengthy feast around around the period that is now Christmas, that was kind of all about you can't conquer the sun. Um, and I've always kind of dug Sol Invictus. I think it's a good holiday.
Huh. Cool. I'm gonna look that up. I have a question. Ben, did you see this carp thing going around yesterday?
Carp?
Yeah. It was like a contagious viral thing. Well, not contagious. I'm being ridiculous. I'm just tired because of that nap. It was it was just a thing. It just said carp, and it was a picture of a carp, and then it was like it was a one button survey, and you clicked on carp, like on the button, and it repopulated a survey in your own, like on your own thing that also said carp with a new picture of a carp. And I clicked on it, and it, like, I don't get it. Like, I have no idea what's going on. Someone said it was an ad. I don't know what it's an ad for. I haven't heard anything. I'm actually, if you are a person that can explain the carp meme, I would greatly appreciate
All right.
it.
Anybody in the audience who can explain the carp meme and who wants to come on and do so. Also, I'm seeing all of this agitation about Heather Cox Richardson. My memory is that Heather Cox Richardson and that Anne Kornhauser was going to reach out to her
Oh,
and see if she was
shoot.
willing
I
to
owed
come
Anne an
on.
email. I'm very behind on emails. Sorry.
Oh, any day but Tuesday. So we're booked
Wednesday?
on Monday. Wednesday is the 23rd, right?
Yeah.
Let's do Heather Cox. Anne, can you book Heather Cox Richardson and put her in touch with either Kate or me for the 23rd?
You can send it to me and I'll see it. I just like am like devastatingly like behind on emails.
Um,
Um,
all right, so we've got Monday and Wednesday booked. Um,
Great.
Also, the other person that has been requested repeatedly um, are who has agreed to come on is Maria Konnikova, who
Why does that
is
name sound so familiar?
because she is a good friend of Mike Pesca's, who does the "Is That Bullshit" segment
Oh,
on,
yeah.
and she recently decided to write a book to see if she could learn to be a professional poker player, and having never played poker before, and became a professional poker player, and has a really interesting book out about it.
Cool.
So I will try to nail her down. She is a perennial audience request. Um, I think Christmas. We're doing a show on Christmas.
Sure.
All right.
Why not? I have nothing else to do.
All right. I think it should be just us, right?
Yes.
Probably. What about Christmas Eve? Like people are. We're not going to invite. I mean, I suppose we can invite a Jew on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah. Jews only.
I mean, like, or a Muslim. I mean, it's like, but like,
I knew you meant. Like, actually, you know who would be great, Ben? I've been wanting to have her on for a while, but might be perfect for Christmas Eve. Is my friend Nabia, who was the deputy GC at BuzzFeed and who litigated the PP tapes, the dossier.
oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Nabia. She's now the president of the Markup.
Oh,
The
cool. And she's and she's Muslim, so and therefore available on Christmas Eve
Yeah.
potentially.
Yep.
Excellent.
I've been trying to have her as a mystery guest, but she has like a 1-year-old baby and is on the East Coast and is like, or was traveling, and so we're on the West Coast rather, and so there's just like things were crazy, but we can definitely. I was thinking she would be great.
All right, so that will cover Thursday and Friday. So it's really just the question is, can we get Maria Konnikova for Tuesday?
Okay.
I will write to her.
Okay.
And Heather Cox Richardson, if we can get for Wednesday or if we can get for Tuesday, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, that's a really, I love that lineup. And then there's, oh, I do have like a very nice dinner that I ordered so this is like a weird fact. There is a Michelin rated French restaurant, like in like the small town that I live in, that is just absolutely insanely good. Um, it's just a very bizarre. It is in like an old building that was vacant for years that used to be a clam shack, and then like it was vacant for like a dozen years and nothing went in there, and now it's like this just like incredible restaurant that people drive from all over the place to go to. Anyway, so they're doing a Christmas Eve dinner package, and it's
Hmm.
completely insane. And so we're doing that on Christmas Eve. I decided not to cook, but that's it. I can bring it with me and make you jealous.
I um
Is there anything that you've ever wanted to celebrate about Christmas?
I have never been to a proper Christmas dinner. I have been to a kind of
Oh,
informal Christmas dinner potluck. Um, but I would, someday I would like to go to a very traditional Christmas dinner.
oh, we
Um,
should totally do that. And like, yeah, like a big, like a big piece of like tenderloin or like a ham, and then like usually the seven fishes. I love the seven fishes. I'm
I've
like
just like,
really.
like people like, I've just literally never been to anyway.
Well, we're gonna do that once this is all over. But speaking of, do you know my family does as the it's traditional Christmas breakfast, which is a very funny thing that I have always done. We don't know when we started doing it, but we've always done it, which is
Lamb
latkes.
prosciutto?
No, latkes on Christmas on Christmas morning. It's like
That's
we
kind of
do.
interesting.
Yeah, isn't that
Is
interesting?
that
It's
like
also,
the Ashkenazi Jewish heritage trickling down through the.
I guess so. I think so. I think maybe, but like my dad is the one who started doing it number like over like 20 years ago, and he doesn't identify, even though he's the Jewish one, he doesn't like even, he didn't grow up. He grew up with like his Ashkenazi heritage being not talked about. And so he doesn't have like any type of like identity with it. Um, I have more because I knew about it and then I've gone and researched my family. Hi. Oh no, you're
No, no. I
oh,
was just starting to bring people
bringing
in.
questions. Okay.
We were not.
So,
I was not
but
trying to
like,
cut you off.
but yeah, no. So every it is like, and my dad makes the like it is a science in my house. He grates the potatoes the morning before. They get like squeezed, like all the extra water out of them. They're like sealed away so that the potato doesn't oxidize. We've like done taste tests with many different types of potatoes. Then he's like done ones where he
Which is
mixes
kind
in
of like not in the spirit
or of
of
like I
latkes, which
know.
are kind of like thrown together peasant food. It's
I
like
know.
like like foodie latkes is kind
It's
of
like
like
not a thing.
I
I
was
know.
gonna say
It's like,
it's like
no, I get it.
I don't know. I can't.
I
Um.
mean, yeah. No, I completely like no, I completely get it. It's like I'm trying to think of a parallel, but like I can't right now. But anyways, he's not really I don't know, it's just like a fun. Anyways, we do it every year. It's just really love. I'll miss it this year. I think this is going to be one of the first Christmases that I'm not with family. So, but it's yeah. The yeah, but you don't do latkes are a Hanukkah thing, right?
Latkes are a Hanukkah thing, although actually what latkes really are is just a Ashkenazi Jewish thing.
Yeah.
They're traditionally associated with Hanukkah because they're fried, and cooking things in
Oh,
oil
oil. Right.
is the but like latkes, people don't eat latkes in Israel. Latkes is really a Eastern European Jewish and therefore American and Australian thing. In Israel, the traditional Hanukkah food is a kind of donut thing, sufganya.
Oh.
It's a like a jelly donut. Um,
Wait, is I have no idea. Is the population of Israel is not? largely like Eastern European?
It
Comes
is
from Eastern Europe?
majority from Middle Eastern countries. It's majority Sephardic, not Ashkenazic, and the dominant food cultures, particularly, are Middle Eastern.
Well,
Um,
that I guess I knew, but I guess I didn't know. But okay, so
like
that makes sense.
you can't get a decent matzo ball in Israel. You can't, like, things that you think of as
Oh,
really Jewish foods in the United States
are like Ashkenazi Jewish foods. That's
are
so
are
interesting.
you
I've
know
never thought of that. Yeah.
you like they're not as traditional Israeli foods.
No,
Um,
that makes so much more
and there
sense.
are like places in Tel Aviv where they kind of do them, but it's mostly not for indigenous Israeli consumption. It's mostly like, you know, like people from the Lower East Side who go there and it's a little bit different in the ultra Orthodox community because those are much more Eastern European, at least some parts of it,
Hmm.
and in constant kind of dialogue with Brooklyn. But no, the
But
like, but
Ashkenazi foods, it like has more of like an Eastern European feel to it. I've of course it does. For some reason, those two things existed perfectly in my head, both the Middle Eastern and the Eastern European cuisine, like fit
well,
in some spot in like,
there's another factor in it, which is
hmm,
that so of course the founders of the state of Israel were all Eastern European Jews, and you know, mostly from Poland and Russia and Germany, right? And so they were, and but they were really self-consciously trying to build a culture that was not, so they wouldn't speak Yiddish. Um,
would they assimilate
no,
or oh,
they
specific,
revived the
nothing to
Hebrew
assimilate to,
language
right?
to
Just
they,
trying to like,
you know,
yes, of
they
course.
were like, this is the only true example of a dead language being revived as a spoken language.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Hebrew was an entirely liturgical language
Hmm.
until the late 19th century, and it was revived as an ideological matter. Um, but one of the things they did was they got rid of what they thought of as vestiges of your of Eastern European Jewish culture. So they were not into Yiddish. And today, Yiddish is spoken entirely by ultra Orthodox communities. They're
Hmm.
like, whereas it was the vernacular for people like me until like pretty recently, you know, like,
Really?
well, so my grandfather grew up speaking both Yiddish and English. And no, almost nobody of my parents' generation who is not Orthodox or ultra Orthodox specifically speaks Yiddish. And nobody of my generation speaks Yiddish who is not ultra Orthodox. And so, like, that is a, you know, in this country, and, you know, Jews speak English, ditto in Australia, and, and in Israel, people speak Hebrew, but basically secular people do not speak Yiddish anymore. And that's a deliberate policy of the sort of Zionist movement over about 100 years. And one of the features of that same kind of create a new culture, which always looked to the past as new cultural movements tend to do, was, you know, not focusing on Eastern European foods, but like like Israeli food culture was oriented around the Middle East, both because the Zionists were interested philosophically
Typically in building it out of the
in
Middle
building it
East.
out of the Middle East, and
Right.
because the 1.5 million, 2 million people who they helped emigrate right after the war were the independence war in 48 were over the successive 10 years were overwhelmingly from Arab speaking countries, and this was their food. And so, you know, if you look at what Israeli food is, it's oddly not Eastern European in
No, this is fascinating. This is really, this is one of those things also that like unless you have someone to kind of that knows all of this stuff and can sit you down and kind of talk you through it, there is no way to like necessarily like learn. I mean, I guess there's probably a book or something that I could have picked up and read, like, but like this is kind of one of those things that like you wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't like piece it together necessarily in that way. Although actually, do you know I was like I went to Israel for the first time this time last year. And it
Yeah, I
was
remember
lovely.
that.
Yeah, it was
Um,
great. From yeah, I got stopped and then like, oh yeah, and then there was that really funny interaction with the guy in the plane who told me I didn't look like a law professor, and I said, "What does a law professor look like?" And he said, "Alan Dershowitz." I was
yeah,
like,
right.
"Yeah,
Like,
like yeah, I'm gonna disappoint you there." Like, um,
newsflash: Kate Klonick does not look like Alan Dershowitz.
thank God.
Should we take some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Jen Zaman,
Hey,
great to see you.
how
Hi.
are you? Good. I'm sorry I look like crap. We just worked out. So,
No, I did
You
too.
know, on
You're
In Lieu
fine.
of Fun,
It's in lieu of
infinite informality is the rule. It's good to see your
okay.
face.
Yeah, good to see you too. And actually, don't get mad, but it's pronounced Zaman.
It is?
no. We love knowing
Oh,
how to pronounce. Correctly pronounce
that's
names.
actually,
Thank
I
you for
will,
telling us.
far from getting mad, thank you for letting me know. I have known you entirely in writing
This is true.
for like 5 years now.
I know, right?
And so, you take a guess, you stick with your first guess. And since I never have occasion to pronounce your name, I've never had occasion to be corrected. So thank you for letting me know.
I mean, everyone pronounces it Zaman because in Turkish, Zaman is pronounced, it means time. And that's how it is pronounced. So a lot of Europe, like my friends in the UK, that's how they think it's pronounced. But
Time like in clock time, or time is in like
yeah, like that's actually the name
time?
of like a Turkish newspaper.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
is your family Turkish?
No, my husband's side is Flemish, so it's
Sweet.
also a Flemish, which is kind of bizarre. Yeah.
Excellent. So what's on
Anyway.
your mind?
Well, I've been doing some twittering this afternoon and wondering if anyone is worried about this whole meeting last night at the White House with Sidney Powell and Michael
Oh, nah.
Shannon, and that and apparently David Rothkopf just tweeted that Axios said that there's people that are so worried about it, and the White House staffers, that they're privately whispering their anxieties to reporters about them overthrowing our democracy. And I mean, is this something that I should be freaking out about, or? And because someone else said a month is a long time, which it is in Trump world. So
Yeah, so sorry, I'm speaking of mispronouncing names, has a very similar question actually about a different story. So
Okay.
let's bring him on to pose his related question before we address them, and then we can address them together. So we have the Sidney Powell meeting anxieties question, and laced with the how much damage can you do really in 32 days question. And Auntie, when you show up, you have an Axios story that poses a similar question. So, Kate, how worried are you about this? Some bullshit
I'm like,
happening somewhere.
do you remember when we talked about? I mean, like I was the wet blanket when everyone wanted to get all worked up about this, like around the like following the election. Everyone was like, "Oh no, he's going to stay." I'm like, he's not going to stay. He's going to leave. It's just brand. I hate to be a broken record, but like, don't people get like a little bit like? And I understand this has been like, trust me, like I feel like a psychological weight has been lifted, and like, I feel so much more optimistic about everything with
So
like
we
the
get the
new
chill
president.
out from Kate. Auntie with like almost no hair and headphones, however, is worried about Axios. What's on your mind?
Well, yeah, sorry, it was Barber Day, and the self barber only knew one length, so here we are.
Yeah, I like it.
There you go. It looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I love
Thanks.
the painting behind you. I've admired that for a while too, by the way. Lovely.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. That's basically the princely castle in Vaduz in Liechtenstein.
Oh, cool. Neat. So you're nervous about, tell us what your fears are. Let us set you at ease.
Well, basically, it was. I think this was basically already answered in part. There were that the guy at the White House is just hearing about the conspiracy stuff from all the really smart people that are around him. So, is there anything anything to be extra scared about, compared to all the other stuff that's been going on for the last, 4 years. So that's basically the only thing I was after.
All right, let me say, like, I basically agree with Kate here that there is not that much that you can do over 32 days. And people do have a way of flipping out over. The pattern looks like this. Trump floats in a meeting internally some super frickin' crazy idea. And he does it. It's always extreme narcissism driving it. It's always about him, right? It's I'm going to pardon myself, or I'm going to, fire Bob Mueller because he's oppressing me, kind of things. It's always about him. He's going to, and people in the meeting who are aware of what's going on in the meeting flip out because the president is talking in a crazy way, and so they call Maggie Haberman. This is a serial pattern, and Maggie does.
To be fair, I call Maggie every time I'm moving out. So.
I mean, like, it's a totally reasonable thing to do if you're a say an evil White House staffer who wants to stop something bad from happening, or at least make sure that I don't get blamed for it. Right? What do? You call Maggie Haberman and let her know. So she reports it. And then, of course, lots of people on Twitter flip out about it because it's genuinely scary. And
if true.
Well, it is true. It's true that he raised it. It's true that
You're getting into the difficult nature of truth. Yes, he raised it, but it's
raised
not a true
it, but
threat.
is it likely to happen?
Yes.
Does he have the authority to do it, even if he wanted to do it?
Exactly.
And then so the question becomes, like, number one, will he actually try? And number two, if he did, what would happen? And so in this case, what is he threatening to do? Well, he's threatening to make Sidney Powell a special counsel to investigate voter fraud. Well, the president actually doesn't have the authority to appoint a special counsel. He needs the attorney general to do it. Well, I don't think Bill Barr would actually do that. I mean, Bill Barr is a bad guy in a lot of ways, but he's not. He did reach his limit or Trump reached his limit with him. And then the question is okay, he's going to be gone on the 23rd. Would Jeffrey Rosen do that? And I don't know Jeffrey Rosen at all. But I think, would you want to appoint Sidney Powell special counsel and destroy your entire career? Because your career would not recover from that. Or do you resign? And I think a sane person resigns in that situation. So the question of could he do it, I think he probably couldn't do it, even if he couldn't be talked out of it in a reasonable fashion. And then there's this larger question sort of underlying, I think, both Jen and Anti's question, which is, okay, how much damage can you really do in 32 days? Like, leaving this particular thing aside, what can you really do? And the answer is, it's not going to be in the Department of appointing special counsels. It's going to be in the Department of pardons. It's going to be in the Department of firing people, like we already saw that with Bill Barr, right? It's going to be in areas where the president's power is actually not questioned. And so if Sidney Powell is appointed special counsel, that would be a very bad thing, and the next attorney general would have to come in and figure out a way to undo that.
Can I pose something that I think I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about how this has been happening and like what the motivations would be for Trump and his inner circle to kind of be floating the Sidney Powell thing and right now, and like what's going on, like why do this? Do you think that he's using this as a moment to kind of stress test the leaks in his administration? Because
I think he's priced that in a long time ago.
Really?
Okay. By the way, I would not be surprised if the source of this was Sidney Powell.
Wait, really? You think that she would leak this herself? I mean, it's great for her, even if it's not.
Why wouldn't she?
Do it?
I'm not saying she did. I'm just saying you have to assume that everybody in the Trump administration leaves meetings and texts the contents of them to Maggie Haberman as a matter of course. This is one of the most, not just Maggie, but also Peter Baker or Kate. This is one of the most irregular things about this administration is just the lack of basic confidentiality. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But, if Sidney Powell wanted to make clear that this was under consideration for purposes of her own, like she thought it was being potentially scuttled by the institutionally conservative Pat Cipollone type lawyers, and you kind of put it out there and you can kind of generate a groundswell. Don't assume that the only reason that this stuff leaks is because it's like people are appalled. Some people leak it because they're excited about it. Leaking is the constant.
I'm a little surprised. Well, actually, I shouldn't be surprised after doing this for so many days, but we call it leaking, but in some circles it's espionage, and in some circles it's treason, and in some circles it's excitement, and in some circles it's worry. And I just think it's so interesting that it's all just effectively gossip. Some of it is more true than others, but you're just sending things out there that have happened behind closed doors, and you're doing it because, I don't know, the motivations are I think are deeply of having this leak is so personal. But I'm really I'm surprised to hear you not be worried about this. I have to say,
I'm not especially worried about it. I don't I think it is, if it happened, it would be so outrageous that you could that it would actually overcome the threshold required to undo it. I don't think either the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General is interested in self-destructing in the fashion that this would involve. Yeah. So I think it's unlikely to happen. And if it did, it would be so outrageous that it's... Now, the lost in this is that the president met last night in the White House, in the Oval Office, with a felon who was advocating that his lawyer become, a special counsel. That's pretty unusual in and of itself. So I'm not saying it's not terrible. I'm just saying I think it's unlikely to produce anything of consequence.
Right. No, I think that's right.
David Botts.
Hi, David.
Presents for both of you. Just so you know.
Oh, wait. Let's see.
Oh, let's see them. I get excited. Oh,
Ooh.
A carp covered in emojis.
It is
and a
carp.
clam rake. Wait.
Clam rake?
I did that.
Oh, and a blue bird of the type that I used as a Good Morning image.
Yeah, was that, Ben?
I don't know.
Do you know that? You want to know I saw an eastern bluebird on the feeder 2 days ago? It was crazy. They're starting to overwinter here.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Anyway, so
just
sorry,
point
David.
Out carps are ugly.
And I sent those rakes to Joel, just to his daughter who just moved to Rhode Island.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
I'm trying to get her outfitted to go clamming. I don't so Tom McGuckin, I used to catch carp in the Erie Canal, and they had 8 eyes, and were really gross looking. They were it's a polluted waterway nowadays. But yes, they do get quite big. Anyways, go ahead, David.
So, interested. Happy Saturday. Nice to see both of you again.
And you.
What are, in your estimations, what are some of the legal considerations that private sector entities should consider as they work to address security issues brought on by the solar winds network exploitation?
Yeah, David, can you actually talk? Well, you have an expert. Like, I feel like you have been pretty plugged into the solar winds like the kind of the fallout from everything. Is
Yes, ma'am.
there, can you talk a little bit about like what your take is on that question, or like what you're thinking?
So, in terms of legal things, there's a couple things that come to mind quickly. One is for publicly traded companies, will they have to do SEC 10Q filing to say
Right.
we had potentially a material event happen?
Yeah.
And then for entities who discover a problem, to what degree are they under? They're probably not under literally a legal obligation, but they may be under a moral obligation to reach out to some flavor of law enforcement officials to say, "Hey, we have a problem, and the problem looks like this."
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges is that no one is safe, right? And so even if you reach out to law enforcement and say, "Hey, we got a problem," and even if you're not required to disclose, um, can you trust your secrets with another party?
Like, is basically like like everything is prone to this particular vulnerability, so like you can't go anywhere with anything.
Right. There's sort of no safe space. I mean,
Yeah.
as it relates to computers. And this was one of the big lessons, I think, of the SolarWinds exploit is that folks kind of took their eye off the ball a little bit. And we've got a really, really, I would say, perfect supply chain exploitation, and careful, thoughtful, and deliberate adversaries who definitely did not throw a brick through the front window. No. They're very, very quiet, very cool, very savvy in terms of not only extracting information, but making additional pathways to come back later and visit.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think this is cybersecurity law is not one I know well, is not an area I know especially well. And so what
I've done a ton
advice,
of it, so
I mean, look, what advice a general counsel is giving their principal right now, I wouldn't venture a guess, because I'd be talking out of my ass. My sense is that they have very limited exposure to private actors. You know, as a general matter, you know, you don't incur liability through product defects in software, um, which is, query whether that's a terrible thing or not. Um, but most of the time, you're you're immune from product liability law with software for a lot of things. It's a little less clear if you don't, if you're a contractor to the government and you don't notify the government of things. But I'm sort of wading into territory beyond my expertise there. I do think the issue arises for private companies. I think they can't be held responsible for what neither they nor anybody else knew, right, about this product that they were using in good faith. I think the issue arises now, right? So now there's a problem. What do you do if you're a vendor? Surely knowing, I wouldn't know what, like, I wouldn't want to be in the position as a software company of knowingly distributing or using in my product, or as a vendor, a network vendor of some sort, knowingly distributing a product that the Russians are known to exploit, right, in the future tense. But I don't know, like, I think this is a question that is being feverishly worked on by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, very, very well compensated lawyers, both in-house and in private law firms all over Washington, New York, LA, and Seattle, and the Bay Area. And they're all working on this feverishly over the past week and the coming few weeks. And I wouldn't venture an instinct as to where they're going with it.
Yeah, David, I guess I don't have much to add. My expertise actually in cybersecurity law is similarly limited and mostly to the CFAA and other types of and other stuff. But this is, I mean, I've been meaning for 2 or 3 days when you've been in the chat to ask you kind of what you've thought about the SolarWinds debacle and kind of everything, because I know you've been following it really closely and it's in your wheelhouse. And so that was interesting. It's interesting to me that like the publicly traded part of this is kind of where you went. I mean, that's an interesting question, but like, how big a deal do you think this is in your estimation, and like for people working in various aspects of kind of like internet infrastructure?
It's a really big deal because they didn't stop with SolarWinds. SolarWinds was the stepping stone to get into the middle of a network. Once in the network, then they used the information that they got from SolarWinds to essentially impersonate a system administrator. So think of think of being the GM for the owner of a hotel, and you got 1,000 rooms, and somebody has taken over the role of the check-in person. They're not your person anymore. They're somebody else's person. So they can make card keys, and they can do this, and they can do that, and they can do the other thing. Now you don't know in your hotel who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there, because people are using keys that a bad person created. So resolution.
And like, it could be all good people, because all the right people could be showing up and doing the normal thing, and keys are getting created that are compromised and whatever else. Right. But also it could be like a couple of bad apples that slip in like through this kind of shitty admin loophole. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I think that's so interesting. It's a really great analogy. I will borrow that. I think that's really helpful to understand it, the hotel one.
All right, Frank. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Ben and Kate, for inviting me to participate today. I begged the opportunity to invite the In Lieu of Fun audience, to suggest media projects over the past year that have helped the general public better understand law and its role in society. So the American Bar Association gives an award every year called the Silver Gavel Awards for Media and the Arts. And this In Lieu of Fun audience is such a great audience. I know that there are scads of projects that you've read or seen over the past 12 months that you think might be wonderful projects that might be worthy winners. As examples, last year, Emily Bazelon's book, Charged, won the Silver Gavel Award. The Just Mercy, I believe the film, not the documentary, on Bryan Stevenson also won last year. The first Serial won as a podcast. Perry Mason won back in the early days, back in the 60s. And so I really want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to suggest to this audience, if there's something that you've learned from about law in American society and you want more people to know about it, please do let me know what those are, and we're happy, and we reach out to them and try and get them to enter for this award. I can throw into the chat
Please
link
do.
to this.
That's great.
And-
Bob and Jack's book.
You know what? I was debating how best to reach out to Ben about this, whether through Twitter, but I know that he doesn't look at email, and I don't know if the DM wasn't available one day, and so I figured I would just ambush you in the show.
Excellent. I am
That's a great
always
idea.
happy to be ambushed. I do look at email when I'm expecting it. So feel free to email me at
You
my
can only expect it if you can DM him.
All right, so
but I now know your name, so I will be expecting it. So
there's the information about the awards. I'm sorry, Ben. And then here is the link to a little survey form that people can enter into. And quite frankly, you might actually, the most efficient way might be just to email me, which is frank.valadez@americanbar.org.
Excellent.
I think you could remember.
I can even remember that.
That's right.
Although the remembering the A in the middle of your name is
That second A
is going to take a little bit of doing. But now that I've said it, I'm going to remember.
Right.
I'll send you a note.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This is great. NatSec Girl Squad also. I don't know if that qualifies, but anyway.
That probably does. Well, I don't know. It depends on what they've produced. The categories would be like newspapers, so journalism, movie, documentaries, multimedia, so different kinds of projects with different things. Just think about your local newspaper. So last year, 2 years ago, actually, the Asbury Park Press did a whole series on police reform, and that won an award. And just a wide range of things of what relates to law and society would be our open projects. I will also say, though, that the entry deadline is officially January 12th. It shouldn't take many weeks to put together, an entry, and I would be happy to work with whoever needs a little bit of help or some leeway on the deadline.
Wonderful. And also nice bar collection behind you.
Oh, I thank you. Oh, here's another, though.
Is that a mixology? I can't see it. It's kind of fuzzy. But
Yes,
is that one of the mixology things? You
can find it. It was created by a bunch of Forest Service officials, and it's written in like engineering specs.
Cool.
But you can find it on the internet. So maybe not today, but some subsequent show up with a link to that too.
All right. And in the spirit of Frank's query to you all and us all, I have posted a related poll.
The obvious answer is yes. This will be fun.
Which brings us to Esther, who gets the last question of the evening with a lovely dog.
Yes. There he is.
Hi.
He's had a rough half an hour. When I brought him up on my lap, he proceeded to vomit immediately.
Oh my God.
So he's just resting.
Yep.
Yes, the pandemic finally made it into my dreams last night. I was in a hospital walking through the lobby and surrounded by people also walking or sitting. I was the only one with a mask on. Everyone else was without a mask.
That is a good.
It's very weird.
Stream.
Yeah.
So while you are talking, I'm going to share my screen with this bizarre photo that the photographer Kevin Abosh, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, just sent me. So ask your question, and I'm going to figure out how to share this photo, which I think people will find appalling.
Okay. So mine is a narrower version of the questions that Jen and Auntie asked earlier with regards, mostly because I wake up to the news, and in all honesty, after 4+ years, I'm pretty numb to a lot of stories. Personally, I'm a lot more concerned about the Russian hack than this story, but the DoD sudden cancellation of the transition meetings.
Yeah.
Are there any particular concerns that I should waste any of my time on?
I think it is unlikely, honestly, that is going to be a serious, mostly the the transition, the staff level transition interactions will be okay, and they will get the information they need. Now, is this the transition cooperation for which one would pray? No, it is not. And the screen share does not seem to be working. So
It hasn't worked in forever.
It hasn't worked in forever.
Crowdcast like knows the pandemic's ending and it's just like, fuck you all.
So I will tweet it because it is a thing of cosmic horror.
I want to know this.
I already sent it to you. I texted it to you.
Oh. Wait. The one Kevin. Yeah, he sent this to me. Oh, sorry. Yes, Kevin sent this to me on Twitter. This is pretty great.
So, look, I it's not a good situation. I don't think at the end of the day the transition is not going to get from DoD the material that it needs.
There's nothing sinister going on anyway.
Oh, yes, there is.
Well,
always.
Yeah.
Just not of consequence.
Exactly, not of consequence. All right, so I'll leave my concerns with the Russian hack then.
All right. On
it's
that
great to
note,
see you and your pup. I'm sorry that he threw up.
We are going to wrap up without throwing up.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, you brought it up.
I know.
We are going to be back tomorrow, 22 hours and 52 minutes from now, with my awesome mystery guest, who, I will give you a hint, is joining us from London.
Is it Boris Johnson?
It is Boris Johnson. Kate guessed it. It's the ultimate Boris Johnson news from the early days of In Lieu of Fun. Boris Johnson is coming on Twitter.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, I watched his stupid dumb speech on Parliament about like canceling Christmas. 3 days later, Britain is in total lockdown with a new strain of the virus, a mutant strain of the virus, and he looks like such an asshole. But like, I've only spent a limited amount of time listening to him, and I haven't listened to him in many, many, many months. And like, Ben, is it just me, or is he like, I would like welcome a Boris Johnson compared to like a Trump. He seems so much better. Is that wrong?
I mean, no,
he's just as
over Trump.
And
he's at least reasonably intelligent. I mean, he's a
right. Like
flamboyant.
He seems like he can like talk sentences.
Yes. He's not. I mean, look, Boris Johnson is many things, but he's not a total idiot. He's kooky in a lot of ways, and he's not like he's a bad guy in important.
I know he's
respects,
a bad guy,
but he's not
like he's not.
He's
just
not
like
a moron.
He's not a farce. Yeah,
yeah.
He's not like a giant fart. And like his hair and everything, I'd kind of like forgotten. I'd been thinking of him so farcically, and he talked, and I was like, oh, like actually, you are the dangerous type of politician in which you seem to make sense, and like you do seem to like walk the walk, and then like you're actually like horrible.
Yes, he's reasonable. He's quite articulate, actually.
Yes, and I was
he's
just
not,
kind of like I'd forgotten that. So.
All right.
God, what a weird year.
It is. Time to wrap up. We will be back 22 hours and 50 minutes from now. And until then, Kate?
We don't have fun anymore, but we have carp.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.